students, in this part of the video that we are going to discuss about the kinds of machines, simple machines particularly, and how do they work and what are the purposes of that machines, why they are designed. So on this regard, previously we have already discussed about the principle of machine, in which it says for an ideal machine the work output should be equal to work input, or in other words we can say that power output will be equal to power input, or the efficiency of an ideal machine should have to be 100%, or the efficiency will be equal to 1. Now on this regard, we have seen in this part the different types of machines. We have different types of simple machines such as lever, pulleys, inclined plane, and gears. So we have different types of simple pulleys, simple machines such as lever, pulleys, inclined plane and gears. But however, since your syllabus includes only these two, so that is why we will focus on these two, that lever and pulleys, leaving to that inclined plane and gears. Now come to that the first type of simple machine, that is your lever. So you must have seen in your day-to-day life different types of levers. For example, a simple crowbar which is required to lift a load, or you must have seen a physical balance, or you must have seen even a simple machine such as a cricket bat. This is also a sort of the simple machine. It also works just like a simple machine, and it is also coming under that the lever. Now in all these cases that we will discuss now, how they work, what are the purposes, why they are designed, and how do they work. So all these things that we will discuss in this section, that is your lever. Now first of all, what is a lever? So in all these cases, in case of lever, we must have seen there must be the presence of a rigid metallic or non-metallic, it may be metallic, it may be non-metallic, straight or curved. A rigid, metallic or non-metallic, whichever you can write, straight or curved object having the tendency of turning around a fixed point. So now in this case what happens, that if we have such type of body which is a rigid object, it may be metallic or non-metallic, doesn't matter, it may be straight or curved, doesn't matter, but it should have the capacity, or it should have the tendency of turning around a fixed point. Now consider that if we will take one simple lever, let us consider that this is a sort of simple lever. In this case what happens, we can say that this is the axle, means this is the axis of the lever. This is the axis of the lever which has to pass through a fixed point. The fixed point may be here, the fixed point, or the fixed point may be here or somewhere else. The fixed point should be there, and this axis should have to pass through this fixed point, and this fixed point which is around which that the lever has to rotate, or it has the capacity to rotate, and that fixed point is said to be your fulcrum. So fulcrum or otherwise pivot, mark of pivot, is that particular point which passes through the axis of that the lever, around which that the lever can turn. Now since the lever has the ability to turn, so that is why now we can say that a lever works on the principle of moment. As already you have already read in your previous chapters, that according to the principle of moment, as we know that the clockwise moment, the sum of, according to the principle of moment, the sum of anti-clockwise moment should be equal to sum of anti-clockwise moment should be equal to sum of clockwise moment. Now, in this case also, the levers that act on the same principle, so therefore we can say that the principle of a lever is equal to that the work output should be equal to work input, or in such cases we can say that load into displacement due to load should be equal to effort into displacement due to effort. And remember that since this is the fulcrum point, so therefore somewhere else there must be that the load may be applied somewhere else and effort may be applied somewhere else, and that point particularly where the load acts, that is said to be load point, and the point where the effort acts, that is said to be the effort point. And at the same time here if we will say the displacement load, that is also same as, that can be said as here that the loader, or from the fulcrum till that load, the distant load point, that is said to be your loader, whereas from the effort point to the fulcrum, the distance is said to be your effort arm. So therefore, in other words, we can also say that the principle of lever, if it is one ideal lever, in case of an ideal lever, for an ideal lever, that the principle says that load into the product of load into effort, load arm, load into load arm should be equal to effort into effort arm. And remember that load arm and effort arm has to be measured from that the fulcrum point. Consider that this is a lever in which the fulcrum is here and the load here is the effort. So therefore now from the fulcrum till the load, you can say that this is your load arm, and similarly from fulcrum till effort, that is said to be your effort arm. Now if the fulcrum will be at the middle somewhere else, and suppose this is the load, this is your effort arm, effort point, so therefore from this to this, that is said to be the load arm, and this to this is your effort arm. So load arm is that particular length on that axis from the load point till the fulcrum, and effort arm, that is the distance between that the fulcrum and the effort point. So therefore now by the principle of that the lever, we can say that the product of load into load arm should be equal to the product of effort and effort arm. So this is what your basic principle in case of the levers. Now in such cases we will discuss the different types of levers. This is the principle of lever. If it is an ideal lever, then in this case this has to follow this, the basic principle of the machine, that is work output should be work input. So we have seen that from the principle of lever, that load into load arm is equal to effort into effort arm, or in other words, now here we can say that load upon effort is equal to effort arm upon load arm. But we know that load by effort or load upon effort, that is equal to mechanical advantage. So therefore in such cases we can say that mechanical advantage of the lever, that is equal to effort arm load arm. From this relation we can say that mechanical advantage depends on that effort arm as well as the load arm. If effort arm is greater than load arm, then in such cases we will be getting mechanical advantage will be greater than 1. So, now in case of a machine, that if you want to increase that mechanical advantage, in such cases the effort arm should have to be much more in comparison to load arm, or in other words load arm should have to be less, quite less in comparison to effort arm. Now similarly, so from this we have got effort arm is greater than load arm. If effort arm is greater than load arm, then in such cases we can say that mechanical advantage will be greater than 1, or as we know that if it will be mechanical advantage greater than 1, then this basic principle that can be used up for force multiplier. Force multiplier. Similarly, now if effort arm will be equal to load arm, in such cases we may be getting mechanical advantage that will be equal to exactly equal to 1, or in such cases we can say that this can be used for those levers which can be used to change the direction of applied force. Similarly, if effort arm will be less than that of load arm, then in such cases this implies mechanical advantage will be also less than 1, or therefore in such cases this type of lever in which we will find out mechanical advantage is less than 1, that can be used to gain the speed. So that is why on this basis these are, just remember as I have discussed earlier, that mechanical advantage of a machine can be changed, whereas velocity ratio cannot be changed. So here these are the conditions which may come across, that mechanical advantage may be greater than 1, may be equal to 1, or may be less than 1. Now we will go in details to that of the different types of levers. On the basis of fulcrum position, we have seen that fulcrum is that particular point, fixed point on the axis, which does not change its position. It will be remains fixed while the lever works. So that is why on the basis of position of lever, position of fulcrum, so we have, so on the basis of position of the fulcrum, we have 3 different classes of levers. Class 1, class 2 and class 3. So basing on the position of the fulcrum or the fixed point, we have 3 different classes of lever: class 1, class 2 and class 3. Now consider in case of class 1, this is the diagrammatical representation of class 1 lever, where we can say that if this is your load, the load acts here and this is the load point and this is your effort point, then fulcrum must have lying between that load and effort. Remember that here fulcrum lies between load point and effort point. Similarly, in case of class 2, that at one end the fulcrum lies at one end and the effort lies at the other end, then load lies between fulcrum and effort. Remember, third class or class 3 lever, that if fulcrum is at extreme end or at one end, then load point or load acts on the other end, then effort lies in between, somewhere else between that fulcrum and load. So there is a very easy method to remember the different types of levers. That is, you simply flee. You will take the points fulcrum, load and effort. FLE, flee. F stands for class 1 lever, where that it is the point between that load and effort. load lies in the class 2 where this is the point between fulcrum and effort, and in class 3 effort or E lies between that load and fulcrum. So remember that according to these positions that we can also classify class 1, class 2 and class 3 levers. Now in case of class 1, take a simple example like the scissor, where we can say that this is your fulcrum point because around which that the body can rotate. Now if these are the blades and this is your load, these two are your handles where the effort has to be applied. So effort, this is your load, and the fulcrum lies between load and effort. So therefore, now this can be categorized as one class 1 lever. Take another example in case of class 2 lever, like a knot cracker. You must have seen that the knot cracker. So in such cases, this is your fulcrum point, which is fixed. Now this knot cracker can open in this direction. So that is why this is your fixed point, or this is your fulcrum. And the knot which we have taken, that is your load, and this is your effort has to be applied here. So therefore, now since the load point lies between the fulcrum and effort, we can categorize this one as class 2 lever. Now take an example in case of class 3, like a fishing rod. So fishing rod you must have seen, which we are using normally to catch the fish. So here what happens, this is your load, and somewhere else we are applying the effort. So consider that the fishing rod has to be cut in this way and then it has to be removed. So in such cases we can say that this is your effort point, and therefore the fulcrum lies in this point. So therefore in such cases we can say that this belongs to class 3 lever. So these are some of the examples or the diagrammatical representation of class 1, class 2 and class 3 levers. Now we will go one by one to that class 1, then class 2 and class 3 levers. How do they work? From this part that we will discuss the different types of levers and how do they work. First we will go to that class 1 lever. As we have already seen from the definition that class 1 levers are those levers in case of which the fulcrum or the fixed point that lies between effort point and the load point. Now since this is a condition, so therefore now we may be having 3 different conditions in here. Number 1, where the load and effort both are at two ends. Load point and effort point are both at different points, at extreme points, and where fulcrum lies very close to that of effort. So this is a condition number 1. Fulcrum is lying between load and effort, but however it is very close to that load. Similarly, condition number 2, where we find that load and effort just right at the middle, that the fulcrum lies right at the middle. In case of condition number 2, now condition number 1, that fulcrum lies between this load and effort, it satisfies this condition where fulcrum is very close to that load. But in condition number 2, the fulcrum is exactly lying middle of that load and effort points. Means this side and this side both are equal. Condition number 3, where load and efforts are at the extreme points, but in this case what happens? We have displaced this fulcrum towards this side, where that fulcrum is very close to that of effort. These are the 3 conditions that we are getting here. Now in the first condition, take an example that in case of a pliers that you must have seen, that which we are using, that pliers for tightening or loosening of a knot. So in such cases In such cases, we have here the fulcrum is comparatively very close to that of the load, and the effort R is quite low, so that is why here the effort is applied. Condition number 2, where the fulcrum lies just exactly between that load point and effort point, we can take that physical balance or seesaw. So in case of seesaw or in case of that physical balance, now consider that this is your effort point and this is your load point and this is your fulcrum, which is right just exactly at the midpoint. And condition number 3, think about a scissor, where the scissor particularly which is meant for cutting the cloth, because there are several types of scissor. So in case of cutting the cloth, we must have seen that the blade is quite longer than that of the handle. So therefore, now this is your fulcrum point and the load, here somewhere is the load and the effort has to be applied here. So therefore, here we can say that the fulcrum is very close to that of the effort point and load point is comparatively greater than that of this effort point. So these are some of the simple examples of these conditions, but all they are following to that of class 1 lever, as the fulcrum lies between effort and load point. Now in these conditions, let us take the first condition. In this case, what happens? That this to this is your effort arm and this is your load arm. So therefore, now here we can say that effort arm is quite greater than load arm, or in other words we can say that effort arm by load arm is greater than 1. So therefore, in this case, mechanical advantage is greater than 1. So in this case, mechanical advantage is greater than 1, and similarly also we can say that velocity ratio is greater than 1. So therefore, now this is a sort of this condition of that class 1 lever can be used as a force multiplier, where force multiplier. Now similarly in the second case, that where we will be getting effort arm and load arm both are equal. Here effort arm is equal to load arm, or in other words we can say that mechanical advantage is exactly equal to 1. So since the mechanical advantage is equal to 1, so therefore in such cases we can say that these type of machines or this type of class 1 lever can be used to change the direction of force applied. Change the direction of applied force or effort. Similarly, in the condition number 3, we must have seen that this is your effort arm and this is your load arm. So load arm is quite bigger than that of this effort arm, or in other words we can say that effort arm is less than the load arm. So therefore, the ratio between these two, or in other words the mechanical advantage is less than 1, or this can be used to change, to gain the speed. Just imagine that a cloth can be cut by a pair of scissors very swiftly in comparison to that axe. Axe is also one cutting device where we cannot use that axe here. Rather, axe can be used for force multiplier, because in case of an axe, that we must have seen that in case of an axe, the load and this is your fulcrum point, the effort has to be applied somewhere else. So we can say that the effort arm is quite bigger than the load arm. So therefore, an axe can be used for force multiplier, where that scissor can be used to gain the speed. A brief discussion of that class 1 lever. We have come to know that class 1 lever is that particular lever which can be used for that three basic purposes. Remember that a machine is particularly designed for a particular work. So where it can either used as a force multiplier, it can be used as a to change the direction of the applied force. So likewise there is a basic purpose. So in such cases a particular machine cannot be used for different purposes, but whereas a particular type of lever can be used. A given example, that suppose that the scissor, a pair of scissors cannot be used for cutting a wooden log, or an axe cannot be used for cutting the cloth. So now similarly, now we go for that class 2 levers. As from the definition previously that we have discussed from the definition, that levers in which load lies between fulcrum and effort, that is said to be your class 2 lever. Now you will diagrammatically you will represent load point lies between that fulcrum and effort. Take an example that your wheelbarrow. So wheelbarrow, as you must have seen, that wheelbarrow normally that to lift some amount of the load, you must have seen that every day that municipality workers they are using such type of wheelbarrow where some amount of load has to be taken. Now this is your load, this is the fulcrum point, and here the effort has to be applied by the person. So that is why now this comes within the category of class 2 lever. Other than that, as previously I have given another example, that is your nut cracker, lemon squeezer, bottle opener. So all these are considered to be your class 2 levers. Now in this case, we may replace to this load somewhere else near to that fulcrum or near to that effort, but however every time we will find out effort arm is quite bigger than that of the load arm. Remember that if we will displace this load towards the fulcrum, then also we can find effort arm is bigger than that of load arm. If it will be taken load point to the towards the effort, then in such cases also we will find out effort arm is bigger than that of the load arm. So therefore, here only one condition, that in which we will be getting effort arm is quite bigger than that of the load arm, or in other words, effort arm with respect to load arm must be greater than 1, or in other words, mechanical advantage of this machine is greater than 1 always. So remember, this word always is very important. Wherever you will find out the questions like this, that give an example of a machine in which the mechanical advantage is greater than 1 always, then in such cases be sure that this is your class 2 lever. If always word is not mentioned, this may be class 1 lever or maybe class 2 lever, because in case of class 1 lever also we have seen this is a condition, but always word makes it different from that class 1 lever, because here in any matter if you go on changing this position of the load, then also we find that every time this mechanical advantage will be greater than 1. Very important is always 1. Now similarly in this case also we can say that the velocity ratio is greater than 1 always. So therefore, now these type of levers can only be used as force multiplier. So class 2 levers are always used only for that force multiplier. It cannot be used for any other purposes. Remember. Then we will go for class 3 lever. So, class 3 lever, by the definition already you have seen. Class 3 lever, those levers in which that the effort point lies between fulcrum point and load point, that is said to be your class 3 levers. So class 3 levers are those levers in which effort point lies between fulcrum and load points. Now, if we diagrammatically will represent this one, then at one end we can take fulcrum, the other end we can take load, and in between that somewhere else that effort. So take an example, just a knife. So you must have seen that different types of knives are there, and in this case, in case of a knife, now we can say that the load has to be cut. Somewhere else the load has to be cut. So now the load or the load point and the effort has to be applied here somewhere else, and this is your fulcrum. So while you are cutting, at that time you are cutting in this manner. So this end which is connecting to that load, then in that case that is your load point, and wherever we are holding to that handle, that is your effort, and the extreme end which is remain unchanged, that is said to be fulcrum. Similarly, in case of a fishing rod, or similarly in case of a cricket bat also, cricket bat is a sort of, remember that cricket bat is also a sort of class 3 lever, where we can say that suppose this is a sort of cricket bat. In case of cricket bat, this is your load point, somewhere else load point. While we are striking to that bat, at that time somewhere else it is overcoming to the resistive force, and the grip from where we are holding the handle, that is your effort. We are applying all sorts of effort here, and the fulcrum point will be here. So that is why this is also a class 3 lever. Now in such cases, if we will change the effort point somewhere else between this fulcrum and load, wherever we will change, we may find out this is your effort arm, and this to this entire is your load arm. So therefore, even by changing that effort between this load and fulcrum, we will be getting every time that effort arm is quite less than that of load arm, such that the ratio between this effort arm and load arm is less than 1, or in other words we can say that mechanical advantage of this type of levers is less than 1, and also that velocity ratio is less than 1. So therefore these kind of levers are used to gain the speed. Now remember that this is a case where effort arm is less than load arm always. Just like the class 2 lever, here also the always word gives more emphasis to that particular question. Now here mechanical advantage is less than 1 always. So if in question it may come that give an example of a machine where the mechanical advantage is always less than 1, then blindly you can write this one as your class 3 lever, because always word means that class 3 lever, because this is also a sort of condition which we have already come across in case of class 1 lever. So that is why always word differentiate between class 1 and class 3 lever. So these are some of the levers, or the class 1, class 2 and class 3 levers, some of the class 1 and class 2, class 3 levers. So in such cases what happens, that these are some of the levers which can be used various purposes. Now we will see that how this lever mechanism works in case of a human body. So you must have seen that in case of our human body, we have different sorts of joints. Like some of the immovable joints in case of the skull, some are the movable joints like that the elbow or wrist, even that the shoulder. All these are some of the movable joints. Now in case of these movable joints, because of the movable joints, our entire body acts just like a machine and under the influence of lever mechanism. Consider that in case of a human body, this is suppose the brain or your head part, which rests under that the vertebral column. Suppose this is your vertebral column. Now while we are nodding our head from this side, that side, whenever we are nodding our head, basically you must have seen that whenever a person is dozing, sitting on a seat particularly a person is using. At that time sometimes it is the head is going ahead, or sometimes the back part of the head is going that side. So in all these cases we will find that this the entire head which rests on that the vertebral column, particularly that the first vertebra like axis and atlas vertebra, this behaves just like your that the fulcrum point, because in this case either of these sides will be considered to be load or effort. Now while we are moving our head, at that time one side we are taking, suppose consider that this is your load side which is going down, automatically it is coming to this side effort, and this part or wherever it is rest on that the vertebral column, that is your pivot or the fulcrum point. So that is why here we can say undoubtedly this behaves just like what? Class 1 lever. Class 1 lever. Similarly, whenever a person holds something and tries to lift off by means of your hand, consider that a person has hold a certain substance at the hand, and in this condition what happens? We have taken this one as, suppose consider that this is the dumbbell that I have to lift it. In such cases this behaves just like your fulcrum point, because around which it will move this side or that side, and this is the load as you know. So definitely in between this somewhere else the effort is applied. So therefore in this case we can say that while we are lifting a load by means of our hand, this behaves just like class 3 lever, because here effort lies between fulcrum and load. Now consider a person is holding some of the objects and lifting it to a higher position. In such cases what happens? That if we will see, this is the thigh position, and now consider that this is the toe which are considered to be the fulcrum, because here he is standing and raising its load to a certain height. Then in such cases this is the toes, then the entire load of the body that stretches on this. So therefore now we can say that here is the load and the effort somewhere else. So therefore in such cases the load lies between the fulcrum and effort. So therefore in this case we can say that this is your mechanism that is based on the class 2 lever mechanism. So in this way the entire human body, basing on the different types of purposes, it works just on the principle of lever mechanism. So I hope that you must have understood all this regarding your that the lever mechanism and the different types of lever, the first part of the simple machines. So in such cases that you can go to that of the PDF file for the proper description. And at last I can say you that you share, you like, share and subscribe my channel.